Hi, and welcome to School Talk. My name is Gloria Rockhold. I am a Community Engagement Manager for Albemarle County Schools, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what the Office of Community Engagement does. Our main interest is to be a bridge between the community and our schools, to help the families navigate through the system, to help our parents connect with our schools and with our teachers and with the system. For some parents, it's a little bit difficult, especially if they come from different cultures or if they come from different countries, to really understand, what the process is. And I also recently been hearing of people who are just now enrolling their children in kindergarten. So that's another cultural barrier for many children, and many families. So we're here to help you relate to our schools. And every program, we're going to be talking about different aspects of the schools and what we, as a community in the schools, do to build that bridge. So today we have with us Latishia Wilson. She is, welcome Latishia. She is assistant principal of Stone Robinson. And she's going to be talking about different things that we at the Office of Community Engagement help roll out in the schools. But first of all, I wanted to welcome Latishia. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So how long have you been in Stone Robinson?
This is my first year at Stone Robinson, and I'm really excited that I've made it through most of the year. And as it comes to an end, I feel like I've gained a lot of experience that will take me into next year.
So before this, you were teaching?
Yes, I was a special education teacher at another county school, Stony Point Elementary School.
Oh, that's nice. So, how did you transition to being assistant principal? Is that something that you've always wanted to do?
Yes, I knew I wanted to go into administration. I feel like in your classroom, you definitely have the opportunity to affect, the children that you work with on a day-to-day basis. As a special education teacher, I got to work with even more students, not just one, class of students like some general education teachers. However, I always knew I wanted to work on a larger scale because I feel like I can make a difference in, the lives of so many more children. And so this is the first step to doing that.
Well, that's great. So at Stone Robinson, you've been working there as an assistant principal. So how many students in that school?
Almost 420.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So how diverse is your school?
Stone Robinson is not the most ethnically diverse. However, economically, it is pretty diverse. And so, and definitely, the students have diverse learning styles there also.
So I think that one of the things that I'm always think about, and something that we don't always talk about, so when we talk about culture, we're always thinking, is it white, brown, Asian? We're always thinking about racial issues. And, in reality, a culture can be so many other things, and there's so many layers of culture. So you could be a musician, or you could like to rollerblade, or you can it's like,
right.
So there's so many different types of culture, and sometimes we forget that we need to be a little bit more broader in understanding, especially what culture is.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that the Office of Community Engagement has done the last few years is establish the Office of the teachers, the diversity resource teachers. And so how long, I know that you were a diversity resource teacher before you went to Stone Robinson. How long were you in the program?
This is my third year working in the program.
So what kept you coming back for the program?
I really believe in what the program is trying to do. Just like you said, then, people do first think about ethnicity when they think about diversity. But, even in a school like Stone Robinson, even where I worked before at Stony Point, which is also not the most ethnically diverse school, then their students come from different backgrounds, they have different cultures, and all of that comes into the classroom. And teachers need to know how to be aware of that and how to work with that in order to help those students be successful.
Yeah, that's true. So tell us a little bit about the diversity resource teachers.
Well, the diversity resource teachers, they're a group or a team of teachers in the county. There's at least one at each of the county schools. Some schools have more than one depending on the size of the school. And my school has more than one just because I was already a member of the team and wanted to continue the work. But the role of the teachers is to work in the schools to inform the teachers in the school, to support the teachers in the school, and to show them strategies and techniques that will help them to be culturally responsive teachers in order to help them be able to connect to every student in their classroom.
So give us an example of something that you would do. I know that you had talked about the culturally responsive teaching and some of the different principles. And can you just walk us through that really quickly and maybe give us some examples of how we convey this information or how we transfer this information to teachers that will in turn help our students?
Well, there are 9 principles of culturally responsive teaching, and some places that you may look that refer to culturally responsive teaching list anywhere from like 6 to 9, but they're basically all the same. And I brought them with me just so I can make sure I don't forget any.
Okay.
So the first one is to communicate high expectations to all students, and that sounds like it's common sense, but in education in general, that's not being done for every student. And for some students, you know, there could be a discrepancy based on the student's ethnicity or the student's economical background or situation. So that is definitely an important facet of culturally responsive teaching, because the teachers need to share with all students that the expectations are the same. It's not okay for one student to do lower levels of work because of their background or their culture. The second one is active teaching methods. The teachers need to be engaging and dynamic in their interactions with students. I mean, especially the way the world is changing today.
Right.
You know, students aren't as the students were traditionally, you know, sitting in the classroom where they sit at their desk and the teacher stands in front of the room and teaches the whole time. The next one, the teacher as facilitator. The education is also changing where, you know, it's changing from the teachers being directors of student work and giving lectures to students to where the teacher is helping the students to internally motivate and develop their own interest and learn on their own. And the fourth characteristic is positive perspective on families of culturally diverse students. Including the family and being in contact with the family and have positive outlooks on the families of the students, no matter the differences in the family or the student, is very important, because students are only in school for a portion of the day.
Right.
And so it's very important to have that relationship with the family.
Can I ask you a little question about that? You know, we always talk about that, about how important it is to have the families included in the conversation of education. And I know that with the Latino population, families don't tend to gravitate to schools because in many Latino countries, it's like the teachers are never invited into the school. So all of a sudden they're here and then they're invited, but then it's just like you got language issues. So it's kind of complicated, I think, when you're talking about the cultural difference in that sense, right? So what are the strategies that you teach the diversity resource teachers and in turn the teachers? Now, what are the things that they can do to bring the families together?
Well, we've talked about just, first of all, you know, the way that teachers communicate with the families. You know, you have to be aware of students in your classroom who don't all come from English-speaking families, and to make sure those families are able to understand and receive those communications the same as the other students in your classroom. And that's something even with, you know, a difference in maybe economic positioning, because you know, a lot of teachers today are relying on email and internet to communicate with families, and we need to recognize that not all of our families have internet service and computers at home. So, you know, that in that way it's the same.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, sometimes we don't think about that. I know that there's one teacher at an elementary school, and what she did is she invited all of the parents to come in for an afternoon tea. I think it was a tea party or as a birthday, or it was really cute. It's like all the kids were so excited that their parents could be there, you know, with them, and you know, and it just creates such a welcoming environment. And I know that in elementary school it's easier to do, but when you get into middle and high school, it's just a little bit trickier. A lot of parents are really busy and they can't really spend time to do that. But let's go on to the fifth one. What's the fifth principle? Cultural
Sensitivity. Just being aware of your students' backgrounds is going to be the first step. And that kind of rolls into the seventh one, which is culturally mediated instruction, because being aware of your students' cultures and backgrounds will then help you to, as a teacher, recognize ways that you can incorporate pieces of those students' cultures and backgrounds into your lessons, which will help to engage the students. You're meeting them where they are,
Right.
what they're familiar with, and so those two kind of go together.
Yeah, let me ask you something, because that one goes also with the families, and I'm wondering, you know, in having this show going out to so many families in our community, maybe to invite the families to come into the classroom with maybe some of their cultural things that they can help the teachers with. I think sometimes it's we put a lot of pressure on teachers to be the ones who are the catalyst to be culturally, you know, it's like sensitive, and you know what I mean? It's just like, I think maybe sometimes the families need to bring their culture a little bit to the school, even if you're still English speaking, but maybe contribute to the actual learning in the classroom. So
Right.
do you see what I'm saying? So
No, I agree, and I am aware also that several members of our diversity response team have done some of those things, just like you named, where they've invited families of students into the classroom to share about their culture, about their background, where they're from, some of their traditions,
Yeah.
and so those have definitely been engaging for the students and added value to the
Right.
classrooms.
That's great. We're kind of running out of time a little bit, but what I'd like to do is maybe, you know, we've talked about the diversity resource teachers that's basically housed in the Office of Community Engagement, and it's something that we've been very active in, and I know that we're going to have different programs throughout the year talking about the different parts of the diversity resource teachers, and what we wanted to do is just kind of do a basis, but we'd like to invite you back to come and talk to us again. And for people looking at us or watching the show, what I would like to encourage you is to email us with ideas of what you would like to hear. So at the end of the program, you're going to see Latishia's email address. So email her, email me, call me, and let me know what you want to hear. Or maybe if you want to come here and share something with us, you know, please, you know, feel free to come in, and maybe we can have like a little cultural show to kind of give us an example of what we're talking about when we're talking about how to connect with the families or how to connect with the children. So
Yes.
anyway, so I just want to invite everyone to do that, and I just want to thank you so much for coming and visiting, and we definitely want you to come back.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed being here, and I'd love to come back. And if I can say also that going along with what you said, the diversity resource team is having a meeting coming up. And one thing that we are going to be sharing is just parent perspectives on how parents would like to be included in the classroom and ways that teachers can engage the families more. So any of that feedback would be very welcome.
Yes, excellent. And we need the feedback like next week. So make sure to get with it and let us know. Maybe you guys, the parents, maybe we could have the parents here.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be great.
And then we could just talk to them and you guys could see what we do. So anyway, thank you so much for coming to School Talk, and we will be back soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. There we go. Hi there, and welcome to School Talk. I am Gloria Rockhold, Community Engagement Manager for Albemarle Schools. So we're continuing the show, and the next guest is Leslie Wills, and she is a teacher at Woodbrook Elementary School, and she's a fabulous teacher. Her students love her, and I love the way she teaches, I have to say. So I had to bring her on the show to tell us about all the things that she does. And she's also a diversity resource teacher for the school, for Woodbrook. But we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about something else that she's helped us with in the Office of Community Engagement, which is the Community Ambassadors Program, the Community Cultural Ambassadors Program. So Leslie, tell us a little bit about how that got started.
Well, actually last year at Woodbrook Elementary, I was trying to think of a way to really bring in authentic experiences for the kids. And with that, I thought about inviting people from all different kinds of cultures, particularly the Latino culture, and have them come in and share different things about their culture as well as read.
Oh, that's great. So, so that was the idea, and all of a sudden, we started out in one school. I know that you invited me to come to your class last year, and it was so much fun. I just had so much fun in your class.
The kids love you. They really do.
It was just, I just love babies. What can I say? So it was so much fun, but now it's like, in how many schools do we have the cultural ambassadors now?
Well, after the proposal process last year, we thought about spreading it out to a few more schools, and so now we have 6 schools on board, and we have a total of 18 ambassadors that could be either Asian, African American, or Latino.
Oh, wow. That's great. So
it's
you've
really
expanded. You've expanded, and
Yes,
that's wonderful.
and it's so exciting. I mean, the amount of support that we've gotten both from the Office of Community Engagement, working very closely with Dr. Hairston and yourself to make this program possible. It's really been awesome.
It's been a fun program. I love doing that. So tell us a little bit about how you choose the books for each class. Because I know that the books for in the classes for the Latinos, or the ones that I read, have a lot of Spanish in them, and but you also have them for the other groups. So can you tell us a little bit about how you went about choosing the books, how you went about choosing the people that are representative of the different cultures?
Well, as a teacher, I try to think about effective ways to continue with the content. So I took a look at the literacy benchmarks in the Albemarle County school system, and I started thinking about what strategies were important for the kids to know. And then from that framework, I thought about finding a range. So within our text set, we have historical fiction, we have just plain old fiction, we have some fairy tales, and some different genres to get some of that in so that the teacher's work can continue through the ambassador. And then I started to think about specific experiences that Latino cultures and African American cultures could bring that they could stop and speak to within the book. So we have things like the civil rights movement, we have learning how to navigate social situations within the African American community, and sort of the duality of that particular culture. So.
Oh, good. So show us some of the books that you have chosen there.
Well,
and give us examples of why you chose them.
This is actually one of my favorite books. It's called Ron's Big Mission, and it's the very first visit for the African American Cultural Community Ambassador. And it's a great book that talks about how students should set goals very early, and that sometimes in order to reach those goals, they have to make sacrifices. And this is about an astronaut by the name of Mr. McNair, who actually was so enthralled with reading books that he decided to stand on top of the librarian's desk and demand that books be checked out to him regardless of the color of his skin. So this is a really awesome book, and it's one of my favorites.
That's great.
And I guess another example is Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. And I definitely wanted to try to incorporate fairy tales because students have to do they have to make text-to-text connections and draw comparisons and find similarities and differences. And this is the African version of Cinderella.
Oh.
So
I have to say, Leslie, you have done such a great job of putting together the alignment of the books that you've chosen with the curriculum. Because I think that sometimes we just come up with ideas, and when we don't make that link, it really isn't a sustainable project. So I think that that's one of the keystones of the sustainability of this wonderful program, that we're hoping that next year we'll have more ambassadors, and we're hoping that you, the viewers, when you see this wonderful program and you definitely want to participate, it's only 45 minutes every month, and that's only every month the school's in, right? So make sure that at the end of the program, jot down her email, my phone number, and give us a call, because we definitely want you to participate. We need more volunteers for this program.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
I would say another thing that adds a lot of value to the program is that I have collaborated with instructional coaches as well as other teachers from different cultures to come up with text sets. We also have an Asian text set, and actually collaborated with another teacher whose heritage stems from Thailand. And so that adds a lot of really great authenticity to the program as well. And just books that I've heard from teachers that reflect these different cultures. So that's a lot of it as well. It's definitely collaboration is a big part of it.
So when we say culture, how would you define that?
Well, when I talk about culture with regard to CCA, the Cultural Community Ambassador, it is pretty ethnic specific. So it's specific to race. And I think that it's sort of marginalized in that way. But I notice within the Latino culture, there's 5 or 6 different countries that have very specific differences within that as well.
Yeah.
And I think that the overall purpose of the program too is to develop cultural competency within students who aren't from that minority culture as well, and just to develop and foster a love of literacy and give students the opportunity to see people of all different ethnicities enjoying reading.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things that I keep repeating is like the earlier we expose our children to the different ethnic combinations that we're growing into in this society, I think that the earlier we're going to start embracing tolerance and acceptance of people that don't look like me, that don't sound like me, and at the same time they have so much to share. And I think that's one of the cornerstones of this program that I find so valuable, is because you are bringing like real live people, the actual people, as opposed to we're just reading a story or we're just watching a movie. I mean, it's just so different than, you know, having someone there. And I think another really important component to this ambassadors program is the relationships that you build with children. Because I know that because I'm doing this program in a couple of schools, and every time I see any of the children outside of the school context,
Yes.
I mean, they go out of their way to say hello to me, you know what I mean? And it's just like, and I think that that's just a
so
gift.
great.
I mean, it is such a gift, and I think that all of you viewers there, make sure to give us a call, because we're definitely looking for a few more. How many more do we need, like 18?
Yes, definitely. We need to double
Yeah.
the amount of cultural community ambassadors that we have. And if you become a cultural community ambassador, you really have the opportunity to enrich a student's life. And you never know with that one 45-minute deposit of cultural knowledge of how you could impact a child's self-esteem, how you could broaden the awareness of some of the students within the county.
Yeah.
And I know I was just speaking to one student today, and I said, well, what do you think about your ambassador? And he said, you know, the books, when she reads them, it really helps me to understand how important her background was. And that was a fourth grade student, and he said, you know, I'm learning more about Miss Elder's background, and I know with you being an ambassador in my class last year, speaking Spanish to the students who speak Spanish at home just provided so much extra oomph for the student throughout the day as they were learning. So
Yeah, I think it's important also for the self-esteem of the student, like you said, because
the whole child.
Yeah, the whole child. Sometimes you know that, you know, they might have troubles at home, or they might be missing their families from whatever country they're from. So a lot of times we tend to forget that. And sometimes a student comes into our classrooms that might have just arrived into the city from who knows what country, and then all of a sudden we're expecting them to be fine and conforming to our, you know, to our system, and sometimes it takes a little time.
Yeah,
and I
definitely.
think that something like this really causes them to feel a little bit more in tune with. So I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I
Thank
think
you
that
so
just
much,
the idea
Gloria.
of what you know, so how you came up with this, and so that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. And I was wondering if you could show us a little bit more of the Asian books.
Okay.
Because I think those are fascinating.
Well, I sort of have tried to create a cross approach here. So we have the Korean Cinderella. We also have dumpling soup, which kind of covers 4 different Asian cultures within it, and the dumpling is kind of the central part of the book. And I know that one ambassador actually brought in dumplings to share.
really?
So food is always a fun part,
Right.
a fun thing that you could do. This is a book called Grandfather's Journey, and it was recommended to me by an instructional coach named Trish Moya. And it really highlights the immigrant experience, what it means to know that your grandfather was not born in this country and your father was not born in this country, but you were. And then we have another amazing book called Wabi-Sabi. And I really like it because
The illustrations are amazing.
yeah, it has sort of a vertical layout here, and the students are able to make inferences, which is part of the literacy framework that we
Give us
have
an
in the
example
county.
of how they would do that.
Well, here, the ambassador actually just goes through the pictures, and the students try to predict what's happening, which is relevant to their reading strategies and whatnot. And we also have a blog that the students respond to different questions to as well.
So can is it a closed blog, or can everybody?
It's an open blog. It's an open blog, and I can definitely run that information afterwards.
So people can communicate. I mean, so people can read what the children write.
Yes.
And then also comment on what the children write.
Yes, definitely.
Really?
And it's a way to bring in the teachers as well. We have such a great group of teachers who play such an active role when the cultural community ambassadors come in. So
that's
it's just really
wonderful.
been a team effort.
So tell me about the blogging. At what grade do the kids start blogging?
Well, we have students blogging starting in 3rd grade, and we have 1 2nd grade class that I'm definitely going to try to, within our next 3rd year, promote that as well.
Wow.
So-
Sometimes, you know, I think that sometimes we forget how things change.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, like, when I hear a 2nd grader blogging, I'm just like, oh, I'm not into blog. You know, it's like so many of us are just like have not embraced the blogging concept, and then you have these kids that are like, woo.
Right.
You know?
Well, I know in one of the 4th grade classrooms at Woodbrook, that's the most exciting part for them because they get to see what other students thought about the book across the county and whatnot. So it's a
I see.
really
So it's
awesome
across
way-
the county.
Yeah, it's across the county, and so you can see what one student commented on at a different school and how they felt about the book and respond to them. So it really is initiating a relevant dialogue about race relations and cultural relevance.
That's wonderful, and I think that that really kind of brings us around to the wheel of sameness in a certain way, because I think that in the Office of Community Engagement, that's one of the things that we try to do, is to engage communication with different membership groups or different people in the county. And I think that by engaging the students from different schools that are reading the same books, I mean, that in itself is just a huge combination of like, yes, we are all together in this community, and we're, we're all learning together. And I think that, I just commend you, Leslie, for having spearheaded this program. I know that, Dr. Harrison is so happy with this program. And I mean, I think everybody's happy. I think that the community, we all celebrate you for taking this on. And I think that it takes a strong vision just to push it through. Sometimes we think of things, but, and I think it's a combination of all of us together. And at the same time, it's the concept of like, what will cause it to be sustainable. And I think that you've really put together the pieces that it's going to cause that to happen. So I just wanted to congratulate you. And it's just a thank you to come visit. And again, it's like, if you want to see Leslie back, you need to email us, and we are going to be voting as to which guest gets more votes, comes faster.
If you love children's books.
Yeah, maybe she could have like a segment on, reading a children's book, or, or something like that, or how to read a book to a child. I think that,
be a wonderful
that's a really important thing. We tend to forget, I think, how to do that. And so that's one of the things that we, it's just important to do. So,
well, thank you so much. And again, the Office of Community Engagement has really mentored me throughout this entire process. And I just thank you all for supporting. They provided all of the books and some of the monetary things that were necessary for the orientations. And I just think that the county does a great job of placing such a wonderful priority on diversity.
Yeah, it's important. You're also part of the diversity resource teachers, and you are a great asset. And I have to say that you provide a lot of insight and a lot of important conversations. So I want to thank you for that.
It's a passion, and it's sometimes it's the most joyful part of my day to do that work.
Great.
So
that's great. Well, maybe next time you can come and tell us what your school's doing in terms of diversity, and come and show us some of your pictures of maybe your wall, the things. It's very entertaining to see.
Thank you.
So if you're a parent out there in the county, make sure to visit your school, see what's going on, talk to your teachers, go to the parent council, the parent conferences. And so just be more involved in your child's education, because that's what makes us, together help your child succeed. So I want to thank you very much. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Gloria,
until next time.
Thank you.